The Brandenburg Gate, German Brandenburger Tor, Brandenburg II, is an 18th-century neoclassical monument in Berlin, one of the best-known landmarks of Germany. It was erected on the site of a former city gate that marked the start of the road from Berlin to Brandenburg and der Havel, the former capital of the Margraviate of Brandenburg. The current structure was built from 1788 to 1791 by orders of King Frederick William II of Prussia, based on designs by the royal architect Carl Gotthard Langhans. The bronze sculpture of the quadriga crowning the gate is a work by the sculptor Johann Gottfried Schadow. The Brandenburg Gate is located in the western part of the city center within Mitte, at the junction of Unter den Linden and Ebertstrasse. The gate dominates the Pariser Platz to the east, while to the immediate west it opens onto the Platz des 18 Mars, beyond which the Strasse des 17 Juni begins. 1 block to the north stands the Reichstag building, home to the German parliament, Bundestag, and further to the west is the Tiergarten Inner-City Park. The gate also forms the monumental entry to Unter den Linden, which leads directly to the former city palace of the Prussian monarchs, now housing the Humboldt Forum Museum, and the Berlin Cathedral. Throughout its existence, the Brandenburg Gate was often a site for major historical events. After World War II and during the Cold War, until its fall in 1989, the gateway was obstructed by the Berlin Wall, and was for almost 3 decades a marker of the city's division. Since German reunification in 1990, it has been considered not only a symbol of the tumultuous histories of Germany and Europe, but also of European unity and peace. Description: the central portion of the gate draws from the tradition of the Roman triumphal arch, although in style it is one of the first examples of Greek revival architecture in Germany. The gate is supported by 12 fluted Doric columns, 6 to each side, forming 5 passageways. There are also walls between the pairs of columns at front and back, decorated with classicizing reliefs of the labors of Hercules. Citizens were originally allowed to use only the outermost 2 passageways on each side. Its design is based on the Propylaea, the gateway to the Acropolis of Athens, which also had a front with 6 Doric columns, though these were topped by a triangular pediment. The central portion is flanked by L-shaped wings on either side, at a lower height, but using the same Doric order. Next to and parallel with the gate, these are open stoas, but the longer sides, stretching beyond the east side, have buildings set back from the columns. These are called custom houses for the Berlin Customs Wall, which was in force until 1860, or gatehouses. The Doric order of the gate mostly, but not entirely, follows Greek precedents, which had recently become much better understood by the publication of careful illustrated records. The Greek Doric does not have bases to the columns, and the fluting here follows the Greek style for Ionic and Corinthian columns, with flat fillets rather than sharp arises between the flutes, and rounded ends to the top and bottom of flutes. The entablature up to the cornice follows Greek precedent, with triglyphs, guttae, metapiece and mutuals, except that there are half metapiece at the corners, the Roman rather than Greek solution to the Doric corner conflict. The 16 metapiece along each of the long faces have scenes from Greek mythology in relief. Many echo the Parthenon in showing centaurs fighting men. Statues and niches at the furthest side wall of Minerva and Mars were added in the 19th century. After an attic story that is plain apart from wide steps at the sides receding in both directions, leading on the east side only, to a large allegorical relief of the triumph of peace, the figures mostly women and children. Above this there is a second cornice, with a projecting central section. On top of this is a bronze sculptural group by Johann Gottfried Schadow of a quadriga, a chariot drawn by 4 horses, driven by a goddess figure. This was initially intended to represent Irene, the Greek goddess of peace, but after the Napoleonic Wars was rebranded as Victoria, the Roman goddess of victory, and given an iron cross standard with a crowned imperial eagle perched on top, rather than a wreath. This faces into the city center. It is the first quadriga group to be made since antiquity, made from copper sheets hammered in molds. Fortunately, these molds were kept, as they would be used more than once to renew the sculpture. The side wings have plain metapiece and simple angled roofs, ending in gable pediments with a small circular relief in the tympanum. History: previous gates, in the time of King Frederick William I, 1688, shortly after the 30 Years' War and a century before today's Brandenburg Gate was constructed, Berlin was a small walled city within a star fort with several named gates: Spandauer Tor, St. Georgen Tor, Stralauer Tor, Koepenicker Tor, Neues Tor and Leipziger Tor. See map. Relative peace, a policy of religious tolerance, and status as capital of the Kingdom of Prussia facilitated the growth of the city. With the construction of Dorotheenstadt around 1670 and its inclusion in Berlin city fortifications, a first gate was built on the site, approximately at the level of today's Schadowstrasse, consisting of a breach through the raised wall and a drawbridge over the dug moat. With the expansion of Dorotheenstadt to the west and the construction of the Berlin Customs Wall, German Achsee-Seemauer, in 1734, the latter of which enclosed the old fortified city and many of its then suburbs, a predecessor of today's Brandenburg Gate, was built by the court architect Philip Gerlach as a city gate on the road to Brandenburg en der Havel. The gate system consisted of two Baroque pylons decorated with pilasters and trophies, to which the gate wings were attached. In addition to the ornamental gate, there were simple passages for pedestrians in the wall, which were decorated with ornamental vases at this point. 18th century reconstruction. Frederick William II of Prussia was in his early 40s when he came to the throne in 1786. He was determined to establish his capital of Berlin as a cultural center. The military triumphs of his uncle Frederick the Great had made the Kingdom of Prussia power that could not be ignored in European politics, but Berlin lacked the monuments and cultural life of Vienna, Paris, or London. His uncle's tastes had been those typical of his generation, drawing on French classicism and English Palladianism, and his Brandenburg Gate in Potsdam, 1770-71, was a much smaller monument, poised between Rococo and a Roman-influenced neoclassical architecture. Frederick William II summoned new German architects to Berlin, including Carl Gotthard Langhans from Wrocław, then in Prussia, now Poland, who was appointed head court architect, Oberhofbauamt, or court superintendent of buildings, in 1788. Though he had designed many neoclassical buildings, this was his first significant work in the Greek style, and his last major one. By 1792 he had designed a small neo-Gothic building for the new garden in Potsdam. The gate was the first element of a new Athens on the River Spree by Langhans. The gate was originally called the German Friedenstor or Peace Gate. The military victory it celebrated had been very complete, but almost fatality-free, so the name seemed justified. Frederick William II had restored his brother-in-law to power in the Netherlands. But the French Revolution began while construction was underway, and only a few years after it was completed, the Batavian Revolution sent the Dutch royal couple into exile in 1795, the first of many political upheavals throughout the gate's history. 19th and early 20th centuries, the Brandenburg Gate has played different political roles in German history. After the 1806 Prussian defeat at the Battle of Jena-Auerstedt, Napoleon was the first to use the Brandenburg Gate for a triumphal procession and took its quadriga to Paris. After Napoleon's defeat in 1814 and the Prussian occupation of Paris by General Ernst von Pfuel, the quadriga was restored to Berlin. It was then redesigned by Karl Friedrich Schinkel for the new role of the Brandenburg Gate as a Prussian triumphal arch. The goddess, now definitely Victoria, was equipped with the Prussian eagle and iron cross on her lance with a wreath of oak leaves. The quadriga faces east, as it did when it was originally installed in 1793. Only the royal family was allowed to pass through the central archway, as well as members of the Pfuel family, from 1814 to 1919. The Kaiser granted this honor to the family in gratitude to Ernst von Pfuel, who had overseen the return of the quadriga to the top of the gate. In addition, the central archway was also used by the coaches of ambassadors on the single occasion of their presenting their letters of credence to council. After 1900, due to weathering and environmental damage, smaller and larger pieces of stone began to fall from the gate. Comprehensive renovation work began in 1913, which had to be interrupted by the outbreak of World War I and was not completed until 1926. Meanwhile, the events of the November Revolution had led to further significant damage, particularly to the quadriga. Indeed, the gate was used as a firing position by government troops during both the Spartacist uprising of January 1919 and the Kapp Putsch in March 1920. The restoration work was carried out on site under the direction of Kurt Kluge. For this purpose, the quadriga was encased in a wooden structure. Berliners spoke of the highest horse stable in Berlin, but regardless of the weather, the work could be carried out in the dry without any delay. The numerous sandstone reliefs were restored and partially renovated under the artistic direction of Wilhelm Wanschneider, who remodeled one of the centaur metapiece with a different motif. Nazi Germany and World War II, when the Nazis ascended to power, they used the gate as a party symbol. As part of Berlin's transformation into the so-called world capital Germania, the gate was located on the east-west axis. A 7-kilometer-long section between the Brandenburg Gate and Adolf Hitler Platz, today Theodor Heuss Platz, was extended and put into operation in 1939. During the further expansion of the east-west axis, which never materialized, one of the plans was to move the side porticos away from the Brandenburg Gate. Traffic would then have been routed not only through, but also around the gate. The gate survived World War II and was one of the damaged structures still standing in the Pariser Platz ruins in 1945, another being the Academy of Fine Arts. The gate was badly damaged with holes in the columns from bullets and nearby explosions. One horse's head from the original quadriga survived and is today kept in the collection of the Märkisches Museum. Efforts to disguise the government district of Berlin and confuse Allied bombers had included the construction of a replica Brandenburg Gate located away from the city center. 452, Cold War. After Germany's surrender at the end of the war, the Brandenburg Gate was located in the Soviet occupation zone, directly next to the border to the zone occupied by the British, which later became the border between East and West Berlin. In connection with the East German uprising of 1953, 3 men took down the red flag on the roof of the Brandenburg Gate, and shortly after noon on the 17th of June 1953, hoisted the joint black-red-gold flag of East Germany and West Germany. One of the 3 men, Wolfgang Panzer, probably paid for this action with his life and was never seen again. On the 21st of September 1956, the East Berlin magistrates decided to restore the only surviving but damaged former city gate. Despite heated arguments and mutual accusations, both parts of Berlin worked together on the restoration. The holes were patched but were visible for many years. The quadriga was completely recreated based on a plaster cast from 1942. The reconstruction was carried out by the sculptor Otto Schnitzer and the traditional foundry Hermann Nowak in Friedenau. The restoration was completed on the 14th of December 1957. The Iron Cross standard above the quadriga was replaced by a wreath as originally intended, but the Iron Cross returned after German reunification and remains in place in 2024. Vehicles and pedestrians could travel freely through the gate until the day after construction began on the Berlin Wall on barbed wire Sunday, the 13th of August 1961. West Berliners gathered on the western side of the gate to demonstrate against the Berlin Wall, among them West Berlin's mayor, Willy Brandt, who had returned from a federal election campaign tour in West Germany earlier the same day. The wall passed directly by the western side of the gate, closing it throughout the Berlin Wall period, which ended on the 22nd of December 1989. Post-1989, when the revolutions of 1989 occurred and the wall was demolished, the gate symbolized freedom and the desire to unify the city of Berlin. Thousands of people gathered at the wall to celebrate its fall on the 9th of November 1989. On the 22nd of December 1989, the Brandenburg Gate border crossing was reopened when Helmut Kohl, the West German Chancellor, walked through to be greeted by Hans Modrow, the East German Prime Minister. Demolition of the rest of the wall around the area took place the following year. In 1990, the quadriga was removed from the gate as part of renovation work carried out by the East German authorities following the fall of the wall in November 1989. Germany was officially reunified in October 1990. The Brandenburg Gate was privately refurbished on the 21st of December 2000 at a cost of €6 million. It was once again opened on the 3rd of October 2002 following extensive refurbishment for the 12th anniversary of German reunification. On this occasion, the Berlin office of Kardorff Engineer developed a new lighting concept that emphasizes the gate as the most important building on the Pariser Platz. The Brandenburg Gate became the main venue for the 20th anniversary celebrations of the fall of the Berlin Wall, or Festival of Freedom, on the evening of the 9th of November 2009. The high point of the celebrations was when over 1,000 colorfully designed foam domino tiles, each over 2.5 meters, 8 feet 2 in tall, were lined up along the route of the former wall through the city center. The domino wall was then toppled in stages converging here. The Brandenburg Gate is now again closed to vehicle traffic, and much of the Pariser Platz has been turned into a cobblestone pedestrian zone. The gate, along with the broad Strasse des 17, Juni Avenue to the west, is also one of the large public areas in Berlin where over 1 million people can gather to watch stage shows or party together, watch major sport events shown on huge screens, or see fireworks at midnight on New Year's Eve. After winning the 2014 FIFA World Cup, the Germany national football team held their victory rally in front of the gate. It has also hosted street events at 2009 IAAF World Championships in Athletics, and repeated its role in 2018 European Athletics Championships. It is also the usual finish line of the Berlin Marathon. Political history: a Soviet flag flew from a flagpole atop the gate from 1945 until 1957, when it was replaced by an East German flag. Since the reunification of Germany in 1990, the flag and the pole have been removed. During the 1953 riots in East Berlin, the Soviet flag was torn off by West Germans. In 1963, U.S. President John F. Kennedy visited the Brandenburg Gate. The Soviets hung large red banners across it to prevent him looking into East Berlin. In the 1980s, decrying the existence of two German states and two Berlins, West Berlin Mayor Richard von Weizsäcker said, "The German question is open as long as the Brandenburg Gate is closed." On the 12th of June 1987, U.S. President Ronald Reagan spoke to the West Berlin populace at the Brandenburg Gate, demanding the raising of the Berlin Wall. Addressing the General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, Reagan said, "General Secretary Gorbachev, if you seek peace, if you seek prosperity for the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberalization, come here to this gate, Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." On the 25th of December 1989, less than 2 months after the Berlin Wall began to come down, the conductor Leonard Bernstein conducted the Berlin Philharmonic in a version of the Ninth Symphony of Beethoven at the then newly opened Brandenburg Gate. In the concluding choral movement of the symphony, the Ode to Joy, the word Freude, joy, was replaced with Freiheit, freedom, to celebrate the fall of the wall and the imminent reunification of Germany. On the 2nd to the 3rd of October 1990, the Brandenburg Gate was the scene of the official ceremony to mark the reunification of Germany. At the stroke of midnight on the 3rd of October, the black-red-gold flag of West Germany, now the flag of a reunified Germany, was raised over the gate. On the 12th of July 1994, U.S. President Bill Clinton spoke at the Brandenburg Gate about peace in post-Cold War Europe. On the 9th of November 2009, Chancellor Angela Merkel walked through the Brandenburg Gate with Russia's Mikhail Gorbachev and Poland's Lech Walesa as part of the 20th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. On the 13th of August 2011, Germany marked the 50th anniversary of the day the Berlin Wall began construction with a memorial service and a minute of silence in memory of those who died trying to flee to the West. It is our shared responsibility to keep the memory alive and to pass it on to the coming generations as a reminder to stand up for freedom and democracy to ensure that such injustice may never happen again, Berlin Mayor Klaus Wowereit said. German Chancellor Angela Merkel, who grew up behind the wall in Germany's communist eastern part, also attended the commemoration. German President Christian Wolff added, "It has been shown once again, freedom is invincible at the end. No wall can permanently withstand the desire for freedom." On the 19th of June 2013, U.S. President Barack Obama spoke at the gate about nuclear arms reduction and the recently revealed U.S. internet surveillance activities. On the night of the 5th of January, 2015, the lights illuminating the gate were completely shut off in protest against a protest held by far-right anti-Islamic group, Pegida. In April 2017, Die Zeit noted that the gate was not illuminated in Russian colors after the 2017 St. Petersburg metro bombing. The gate was previously illuminated after attacks in Jerusalem and Orlando. The Berlin Senate only allows the gate to be illuminated for events in partner cities and cities with a special connection to Berlin. In February 2022, the gate was lit up with the colors of the Ukrainian flag during the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine. A candlelight vigil was also held in front of the gate on the 31st Independence Day of Ukraine. Illuminations for expressions of solidarity of the German people. Vandalism. On the 17th of September 2023, German climate activists who call themselves the last generation, used fire extinguishers to spray paint the Brandenburg Gate's columns orange. The last generation is known for their unorthodox protest tactics, including gluing themselves to roads to block traffic. The mayor of Berlin, Kai Wegner, condemned the tactics, saying they go beyond legitimate forms of protest. The mayor went on to say, "With these actions, this group is not only damaging the historic Brandenburg Gate, but also our free discourse about the important issues of our time and future." Berlin police detained 14 people connected to the vandalism.